I see, I think I see all our members, but I'd like to know. I think we need to have it on the record. Can I have a roll call?
This is Nell Wareham.
Tim Mock, present.
Jill Nelson, present.
Patrick Ortiz, present.
Oh, hold on, John. We got, sorry, just a sec here. We've got Anthony.
Is Tony here? Tony's here, isn't he?
Yep, he is. He's right there.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess first order of business is to approval of the minutes of our October meeting. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the October meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded, Patrick.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes, is approved. Then I don't see any, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cammie, I don't see any continuances or withdrawals that we need to approve, if that's correct.
There was the one for what is it, J&P Trucking? That was withdrawn.
I say that again, I couldn't hear you very well.
It was item number 5 for J&P Trucking.
Okay. Do I need a motion to go ahead and withdraw that, or is that a continuance?
But that's a withdrawal.
Could I have a motion to withdraw item number 5 on our board, on our agenda?
Tim Mock, so
This is
moved.
Lauren Duncan, so moved.
Okay, can I use Lauren as a second?
Sounds good.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion passes. At this time, we'll have a report from our executive director, Mr. Mock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Director Brandon. Tim Mock, Deputy Director, Department of Natural Resources. A couple of updates here from the Executive Director's office. On Monday, November 1st, the Governor released the fiscal year 22-23 budget package. DNR's budget request includes investments in outdoor recreation and conservation initiatives following last year's historic legislative session that provided unprecedented funding for infrastructure at our state parks and public lands, a pathway to financial sustainability for parks and wildlife through the Keep Colorado WPES, and support for Colorado Search and Rescue system and the creation of the Outdoor Equity Board and Grant Program. We build on that on last year on these achievements by investing in initiatives to grow CPW's capacity to improve wildlife populations, provide enjoyable and welcoming outdoor recreation facilities, and for the administration's efforts to balance conservation and recreation. The budget also invests in high priority water programs at DNR, including expanding the capacity for the Colorado Water Conservation Board and Division of Water Resources and the State Land Board to help advance the goals of the water plan and support the state's water future. Couple of other items here. The Colorado Parks and Wildlife has announced the appointment of the inaugural Colorado Outdoor Equity Board. The board was created by the passage of House Bill 1318 and is composed of members representing communities that have faced barriers to accessing Colorado's outdoors and are responsible for the governance of the Outdoor Equity Program. If anybody's interested, or you can find more information on Colorado Parks and Wildlife website. If you're interested in learning more, we're very excited about that program to get off and running. Yesterday, Executive Director Dan Gibbs, Colorado Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Corrections announced the launch of the Colorado Strategic Wildfire Action Program, and highlighted a special collaboration with the Department of Corrections, State Wildland Inmate Fire Team, SWIFT. The co-swap, the action plan program, was created after the 2020 fire season by the Colorado legislature to quickly move state stimulus funds to start on-the-ground work on forest health and wildfire mitigation projects. The Colorado Forest Health Council was newly restructured also during last year's legislative session, and they kicked off their first meeting on yesterday afternoon, November 16th. The council previously was housed at the Colorado State Forest Service. It's reestablished under the Department of Natural Resources. And the updated mission includes improving forest health in Colorado through integrated science-based approaches with a focus on cross-jurisdictional collaboration among federal, state, and local governments, as well as private and non-profit partners to reduce wildfire risk, restore ecological resilience, safeguard communities and water supplies, mitigate and adapt to climate change, support local economies, and protect recreation areas. Also, there's more information on DNR's website regarding the Colorado Forest Health Council. On the water side here, CWCB Director Becky Mitchell, who also serves as the Colorado River Commissioner for the state, testified before a House subcommittee during a hearing on the Colorado River drought conditions and response measures. You can find a video and statement available on CWCB's website of that testimony. And then she returned virtually to the same House subcommittee to testify in support of the Upper Colorado River and San Juan Basin Recovery Act, as well as a House resolution to provide clean drinking water to tribal communities. Again, that testimony can be found on CWCB's website. And then just a friendly reminder, avalanche season is officially underway. Since October 1st, we've actually had 92 avalanches reported in this state. 17 of those human triggered. 3 people have been caught in the avalanches and 0 killed. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Mock?
Yes, sir.
No questions? Jenny, how about a division director report? How are you doing? And bring us all your knowledge. I guess, Jenny, can you hear?
Muted.
Seems we're having some
Yeah, I
problems this
know.
morning.
It's yeah.
There we go.
I haven't learned how to unmute yet. It's only been what, 20 months. So anyway, Jenny Brannon, Division Director for Reclamation, Mining and Safety. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair and the board. The main thing that's going on the second floor right now is the infrastructure bill. We have now, the president has signed a bill that is looking, some of the math still needs to be worked out, so it's not all ironed, but it's looking like Colorado is going to get about 10 million for 15 years. 10 million a year for 15 years to deal with coal, abandoned mine issues. And while a lot of our problems, like Gold King isn't coal, that's hard rock, there is still plenty of coal stuff that we can address, mostly coal mine fires. I mean, all we can do with coal mine fires, that is such a tough nut. All we can do is maintain, try and contain the best we can, but extinguish or permanently solve, no, that's way too expensive. We don't have the money to do that. Well, now we do. And so we're going to be extinguishing coal mine fires. And these coal mine fires, they contribute to wildfires because when they daylight, they start communicating with wildfires, or sometimes they ignite wildfires. So it is really, really critical, and we're just absolutely thrilled. There's so many details to work out. We're going to have to FTE up, and that's going to involve, legislature and everything else. because we're going to need a lot more warm bodies in here. But it's a sea change really for the program, and we're excited. So that's all I have. Unless anybody has questions or comments.
Any questions?
If I sound funny, I've got braces in. Sorry about that.
You're okay. Thank you very much, both of you. Also, I guess on the consent agenda is the wholesome, what do you call it? What are we doing? We're going to consent to give the wholesome plant, which is a concrete plant down near where I live. What the heck do we call it?
The first TC.
Temporary
Yeah,
cessation.
temporary cessation. Cessation. That's the first 5 year. Just explain that to me. I didn't understand where they get access of Highway 96, which doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but it does me. They don't border 96 anyway. That doesn't matter. But just explain. This is their first. Somebody explain to me kind of what we're doing here, and then we'll go ahead and ask for the consent agenda to be approved.
Mr. Chair, this is Russ Means. I think I'll let Tim Kazir jump in here in just a second. But temporary cessation is a 5-year pause, if you will, of operations and stuff for any permitted site. And what that does is the operator is basically going into a standby where they have to maintain the site and for weeds and make sure that all of their stormwater controls and other things and stuff are in place and maintained and stuff during that period of inactivity. By act and rule, there are 2 periods. The first period is which is what we're asking for and stuff today, or what the operator is asking for today, is a pretty standard to go back and forth in. But if there's a second request for a temporary cessation, then what happens is the operator has to come before the board and explain why they need that second 5-year term, what they're going to be doing to either A, bring the operation up into activity, or go into full reclamation. By act and rule, they can only have 2 consecutive temporary cessations. And at the end of that temporary second temporary cessation and stuff, and then that requires the operator to go into reclamation. And this is a topic and stuff you're going to learn way more about and stuff probably in February and March when we're talking about rulemaking. So, but that's the long answer to your short question. So, and Tim, if you would please and stuff, maybe fill in Mr. Singletary on the specifics here.
Yeah, this is Tim. I understand your confusion over here, because this isn't actually the wholesome plant that's right off of the Arkansas River over there on Highway 120. This is another site that they have that's about 7-8 miles southwest of there, it's in the southeast corner of Fremont County, and is more readily accessed from Highway 96. So this is originally a dimensional stone quarry, and Wholesome SO'd that site about 5-6 years ago, and they're ramping up, trying to get it factored in to be a source of material for the Wholesome plant. So this is a separate permit than the one you're thinking of. That you're right, doesn't have access off of 96 there. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah, thank you. I was just confused.
Sure. Yeah, I understand.
This is Lauren Duncan. I had a question about the timing of this TC. So we're sort of retroactively applying the first TC starting in 2017. Why are we working backwards as opposed to starting today?
That's correct. It first showed up. They went into TC in 2013. They came out in 2017, and then their 2018 annual report went back, and they said that their last activity was in 2013. And at the same time, they were going through some personnel changes, and as when I'd asked somebody, they said, "Oh, I'll have to look into it." And by the time they were supposed to get back to me, they were gone. And I went through several different staff people down there to try to figure out what's going on. And after about 2 years, I said, well, let's just wait till we do the inspection. I've developed some better relationship with some of the people that take it over. Now they understand it. And so when I did my inspection in August, we realized that, yeah, they were out of temporary cessation for about a month's time in 2017. And so we clarified the record that they did go back into temporary cessation starting in I believe it's July of 2017. So that's why we're a little bit behind the curve there, but they're actively working towards getting this site either amended or converted to get into the other site that I was mentioning earlier, so that they'll have a supply there. So they're actively working on getting this expanded and have a solid plans to move forward. It's just going through some of the other permitting processes besides ours.
Okay, and it sounds like you've had good communication with the operator. Sound like you have a pretty good idea of what their plan looks like, because if we granted this now, the way I'm reading this would mean they need to be operational again, or at least in front of the board again this coming July. And that seems like a little bit fast, like they're gonna have, one winter to get into field season here, operational season. So from your discussions with the operator, does it sound like that's their plan? Initially it is sounding like that's what you're saying, but.
Yeah, I agree. The time looks tight. They think they can get there. And if not, they do have a means where they can come in and get a crusher on site and start processing material and put it in trucks. And like I say, it's about 7 miles southeast of the plant. There's not very much. It's pretty much open space in between, but so they're talking about putting in a conveyor system. But in the interim, they could bring in trucks and haul it at probably more like that's about a 30-mile truck haul, which is why they want to put in the conveyor system. But yeah, it's a tight schedule, but they're thinking they can get it done. So we'll see. And they do have a alternative path to get out of to get back into mining in the interim if things get held up.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Ms. Duncan,
So-
this is Russ Means again and stuff. Really quick and stuff. By act and roll, the board or the division can actually go back and set that time. So that's why we're doing it, per the act and the roll and stuff that we determined that time was there, but it is laid out in roll and stuff where we have that, or you have that authority to set that date. So.
Okay, thanks.
So if they put in that conveyor belt, will it cross the Arkansas River?
No, it won't cross the Arkansas. It will cross the what's that large irrigation ditch? I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Minnequa Ditch.
Correct, yeah. But that's about the only thing that that really poses any significant challenge, maybe.
Okay.
They do have, just for clarification, they do have a conveyor system for that crosses the Arkansas from their existing pit, which is on the north side of the Arkansas River, and it's been there for probably since pre-law, I think. But
Okay, thank you. And I know that was kind of a circuitous way to get to a motion to approve the consent agenda, but I think it was interesting. So I would entertain, unless there's any other questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Lauren, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion passes. Before we get into the actual agenda, is there, Chuck, is there some housekeeping things we need to talk about with regard to the pit that, what is it, the Walstrum pit? I mean, do we need to talk about that before we move along and where we are? Is there any housekeeping thing that we need to do?
Well, I think you all got notice that the sole objector we had is withdrawn its objection to the application. And I think the division was going to kind of explain where that puts us as the board, and sort of the contours of it. And since the other item on the agenda has been withdrawn, I don't know if John, if you as the chair want to just go ahead and kick that off and open it up to the division to do that, or
yeah, I think, let's see. So the other item that we had on there, let me look at my notes. So the Baca County issue is also been withdrawn, correct? That's what we voted to, that's what we approved and withdraw, just to be sure about that.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. I think we should get into that, but I wanted to comment a minute and I don't know whether, are there any, are there any public comment people here, people that want to comment on different things, Cammie, or anybody here that we need to recognize to
We do have a few people that have registered to speak at public comment. I've got right now, I do believe there's 3 of them, actually 4 of them. There's I believe Karen and Gary Paddock are here. And then we've got Christopher Bidwell, and I've got Lynn Agar.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead then, and we'll go ahead and hear from the staff on their report regarding the Walstrum quarry, and then we'll hear from the public here and entertain and listen to their comments, if we'll do that. So let's go ahead and start with the staff report or analysis.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Singletary. My name is Jared Ebert. I'm a senior environmental protection specialist with DRMS, and I'd just like to kind of tee this hearing up and provide the board with some context for this item. So originally, this item was set for board's consideration of a 112C amendment application with an objection. This is for the Walstrum Quarry, permit number M1983-033. But in accordance with Rule 1.4.9, if a timely and sufficient objection is received regarding a 112C application, the division is required to set the application for a hearing before the board. And so instead of the staff issuing a decision, the staff issues a recommendation to the board for approval with conditions, or denial of the application. In this case, there was one timely objector. However, that objector withdrew their objection in writing last Friday. So in those circumstances, in accordance with Rule 2.7.3.5, there are really kind of like 2 options that can occur here. One, the staff can approve or deny the application at our level, or a formal hearing can be held for consideration of the application. In this case, the staff believes the latter option is an appropriate path to proceed, given the level of public attention this application has received. And the board might benefit with some information provided by staff and an opportunity to ask the staff some questions. So yeah, I have another staff member, Peter Hayes. He's prepared a more comprehensive presentation about this site to inform the board of that. So, I'll unless you guys have any questions for me, I can kick it over to Mr. Hayes.
Any questions? Okay, Mr. Hayes.
All right, thank you. Share my screen. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good morning. My name is Peter Hayes. I'm an environmental protection specialist with the Division of Reclamation, Mining and Safety. As Jared mentioned, this is a formal public hearing for consideration of a 112C permit application, amendment application for Albert Fry and Sons Incorporated for the Walstrum Quarry, amendment number 9, file number M1983-033. So again, the applicant is Albert Fry and Sons Incorporated. The proposed Walstrum Quarry amendment would add 464.17 acres to the existing 285.13 acre site, increasing the total permanent acres to 749.3 acres. The amendment area is located primarily to the east of the existing permitted operation. Approximately 229 acres of the amendment area would remain unaffected by the mining activities. So that is roughly 50% of the amendment acreage would be unaffected. The unaffected area would be preserved to provide buffer zones to protect wildlife, mitigation corridors and habitat, and screen the mining activities from the surrounding neighbors and highway traffic. The primary commodity to be mined is granite, and the surface and subsurface owners are the Fry Irrevocable Trust and the Fry Limited Partnership. The proposed mining operation would be a surface quarry using conventional mining techniques, including dozers, loaders, excavators, trucks, and would include drilling and blasting of the material. The on-site processing would consist of crushing and screening plants. The proposed post-mine land uses are wildlife habitat, privately owned natural resource areas, industrial commercial development, and developed water resources. The division calculated the financial warranty at $1.1 million, which the operator has agreed to post. This is an increase of $358,000 from the currently held financial warranty. There's a view of the location map submitted with the amendment application. The Walstrum Quarry is located 2 miles east of Idaho Springs, Colorado, in Clear Creek County. The pink area on the map indicates the current Walstrum Quarry, and the yellow lines indicates the proposed amendment area. This is a Google Earth image of the Walstrum Quarry. The site is located at the intersection of Highway 6 and I-70 and west of Highway 119. This is the mine plan map submitted with the application. It's mine plan map C3. The mining of the amendment area would be conducted from top down, which differs from the current mining plan. The top to bottom mining method would allow the mining benches to be reclaimed following mining activities. The applicant is proposing to mine the amendment application as steep as 0.6 to 1. If you shown here on the screen, there's a red line, which is, I'll show a cross section in the next slide. So this is the typical cross section for the amendment area showing the proposed final configuration of the slope. The mine benches would consist of 30 to 100 foot high, nearly vertical faces separated by 20 to 40 foot wide benches. The more visible slopes above 8,000 feet are proposed to be mined at a maximum slope of 1 to 1. The applicant is proposing to use adaptive mining methods with bench heights and widths adjusted due to geologic factors encountered during the mining activities. This is a view of Reclamation Plan Map F1. Again, the proposed post-mine land uses are wildlife habitat, which is indicated in the green shaded areas, the privately owned natural resource areas, which is the yellow shaded areas, industrial commercial, which is the orange areas, and developed water resources, which are the 2 blue reservoirs shown on the map. The applicant has proposed to revise the seed mixture to include woody plant species specifically designed to be similar to the existing native vegetation. The final quarry floor in the amendment area is proposed to be sloped down to from east to west to establish positive drainage. So I'll go into a chronology of the application. The Walstrum Amendment number 9, 112C amendment application was received by the division on April 20th, 2021. On May 11th and May 12th, the amendment application was called complete and deemed complex by the division. The complex determination extended the due date by 60 days. On June 28th, the division performed a pre-operation inspection of the amendment area. Pursuant to section 34-32.5-112, parent 9, parent B, and rule 1.6.2, parent 1, parent D, and rule 1.6.5, the applicant published the required public notice in the Clear Creek Courant once a week for 4 consecutive weeks. Additionally, the applicant mailed copies of the required public notice pursuant to rule 1.6.2, parent 1, parent E. On June 28th, the division received 1 timely objection from Young Ranch LLC. The letter was forwarded to the applicant on July 7th. On June 29th, the public comment period closed for the amendment application. The division issued 6 advocacy letters. The dates for the first 4 are shown on the screen. The advocacy letters were composed of 3 general advocacy reviews and then 3 specific for geotech concerns. On September 17th, the division issued the notice of formal board hearing and pre-hearing conference. On September 21st, that was the date of the last geotech review letter sent. On September 27th, the applicant submitted an extension request to the recommendation date to today's date. On October 8th, the revised notice of formal board hearing and pre-hearing conference was sent by the division. On September 13th, the division's final advocacy letter was issued, and subsequently the applicant addressed all of the advocacy concerns. On October 21st, the division held an informational meeting for timely and untimely objectors to the amendment application. And on October 29th, the division issued its recommendation and rationale to approve the amendment application. On November 4th, the pre-hearing conference was held virtually with the division and the objector. Following the meeting, the applicant and the objector were able to reach an agreement related to the objections to the application. On November 12th, the objector, Mr. Young, formally withdrew the objection. And that brings us to today's date, the board hearing pursuant to rule 2.7.3, parent 5. Now I'll discuss some untimely objections received for the application. The division received untimely objections from 46 individuals and entities, which raised mostly non-jurisdictional concerns. The division acknowledges there are untimely objections to this application. The untimely objections were received 60 days past the close of the comment period. The majority of the untimely objectors are from the Douglas Mountain subdivision, which is located 1 mile away from the quarry. The division staff reviewed their comments and believe the issues under the board's jurisdiction were addressed by the applicant. They also raised non-jurisdictional issues, including truck traffic, dust, noise, and view shed impacts. As stated previously, on October 21st, the division did outreach to these non-parties at the informational meeting. The division's processes were explained and questions were answered by staff. Several of the untimely objectors have requested to address the board at today's meeting. The objective for this formal board hearing, pursuant to rule 1.7.3, parent 5, the objection to this application was withdrawn. However, the division set this matter for hearing to provide the board with information and to be available to answer questions. This division's closing statement. Jurisdictional issues raised by the objector and the untimely objector were addressed by the applicant. All of the division actually issues were addressed satisfactorily by the applicants. The Walstrum Quarry Amendment Application number 9 satisfies all the requirements of the Act and rules, and therefore the division recommends approval of the Walstrum Quarry Amendment number 9. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Any questions or comments from any of the board?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Mock.
thank you. Mr. Hayes, the jurisdictional issues that were raised by the untimely objectors, can you just kind of review those briefly?
Most of it was dealt with geotechnical concerns, stability of the final high walls. And the applicant did submit an extensive geotech analysis and stability model, and their models indicated a factor of safety well above the board's requirements. Those models were verified by the division, and we concurred with their analysis.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Lauren Duncan. Apologize about having to take off my video. My internet's not up to the challenge today. Just talking about the reclamation plan a little bit. Those one-to-one slopes. If I looked at that diagram correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Peter. They were kind of adjacent to one of the areas that was designated for wildlife habitat. Will those slopes be laid back at all at the end of the day? That seems very steep.
The mine slopes, no, they will not. That will be the final configuration.
Okay, that seems really steep, immediately adjacent to habitat. If we're not going to have any sort of fencing or anything else immediately between the two, and then kind of a question for, I guess also for you, Peter, if CPW had a chance to comment on this. I don't have a map in front of me, so I can't really say it, but I know there is some pretty critical bighorn sheep habitat in this area. Is there any overlap between these final reclamation areas and that habitat?
I know that the operator did reach out to the Bighorn Sheep organization, and the division did reach out to CPW. We sent them notice of the application, and we reached out for comments, but we did not receive any comments from CPW.
That's unfortunate. I'd really be interested in their opinion here. And then the last thing too, I was concerned about the number of untimely objections that were kind of filed along with this notice. It sounds from your chronology like every box was checked and the timing was done correctly. But I guess I'm concerned to see this many untimely objections and this many folks who feel like they didn't have a chance to achieve party status if they had wanted to. Is there anything we can talk about on that? Or I guess that's where we're allowing this time for public comment here.
I believe that's the reason we're here.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what the other board members think here. Thanks.
I have.
Mr. Chair, oh, go ahead, Jill.
Sorry.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair, I have a couple questions. Did Albert Fry receive his other permits from the Clear Creek County zoning?
My understanding is that they have not gone through that process yet. They were going to get approval from the state before going through the process with the county.
Okay, thank you.
And they did commit to, they need to rezone a portion of the area, so they did commit to getting that rezoning done before mining the area.
Okay. And the second thing in the notice process, it was posted in the county, but and I lost my page here on the private notices that he sent out to what area, who around, how large of an impact around did he give individual notices to?
They're required to provide notice to all landowners and structure owners within 200 feet of the affected area,
Okay, thank you.
which they comply.
Nell, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm kind of on this public notice piece too. I know that the Clear Creek Current has recently changed hands to the primary owner, I believe, that owns the Colorado Sun. If anyone happens to know that, please correct me. But just a process question. I believe Clear Creek Current is not behind a paywall, correct? Is it? It's still a free paper?
My understanding, I'm not 100% sure though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just kind of wondering in the age of media now, where we have a lot of things online, where we don't necessarily have things in the press, just some questions about, I think that we just should be aware of that. It's one thing to publish something, but then another to be aware of how people are getting their news and everything. And I'm just confirming that the Clear Creek Current is indeed, even though it is the county paper and the appropriate one, that this was an easily accessible thing, that someone would know that there was some public notices to read, that we're not relying on fully online editions or something behind a paywall.
The operator did create a website, and that was available. Yeah, the newspaper publication is required by statute, so they complied with the requirements of the Act and rules.
So they created a website too that was public, and
Yeah.
was that website noted in the public notice? Like, how would neighbors know how to find the website?
I don't remember offhand. I believe the operator is here.
Okay, thank you.
Did Lauren, did you have another question?
Yeah, I do. And it's about sort of the repository is not the appropriate word to use, but the location in Gilpin County where mine waste will be stored. Can you describe that a little bit more?
Sure, it's located. No, I can pull up that. Do you want to see the picture again? The Google Earth image?
Sure. Yeah, a visual would be great.
So it's located kind of northeast of the existing operation. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's kind of the farthest northeast section that's disturbed in the Google Earth image.
And that's where sort of their waste rock would be stored? Because I feel like I read something different in our background documents for this.
So that's currently where their waste fines go, and they will. It's almost at capacity, so they are going to proposing to deposit some of the fines from the amendment area there, but they're also they're changing their process to kind of eliminate the fines or wash them and sell them as aggregate. So, and they will, in the final configuration, there will be some fine storage on the current pit floor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board member questions before I get to Mr. Fugate?
Yeah, it looks like we've got a few.
Looks like Patrick's up.
Yeah, I have one. You said there was a public meeting. Just curious, how was the attendance at those, or were there several? Just if there's any information on how many people actually showed up for that.
I don't remember offhand. I believe it was about 20 people, 20 individuals.
This is Russ Maines with the division. I think our final count minus staff and that was somewhere around 27, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Fugate, do you want to espouse some knowledge on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Fugate here on behalf of the division. Mostly I just wanted to be available if you had any additional questions on the notice requirements under our active rules. I think Peter outlined kind of the rules that the division enforces and follows and the applicant followed here. I also want to let the board or make the board aware that the applicant is also here and can field any questions you may have on on other engagement with this particular group of homeowners and community, they may also be in a better position to answer some of the notice questions or how they provided notice to folks in the general vicinity. Again, to not be too repetitive of what Peter outlined in the presentation, the Act and rules do set forth the notice requirements for the division and the board. Our notice rules are set by statute. Admittedly, they are dated. They do require for newspaper publication, which was done here. It is the newspaper in the general vicinity of the location of the mine site. So there is some specific language in the statute that kind of directs how notice is to be provided. The regulations do follow up and kind of expand on that, provide kind of the comment period. Again, it's published once a week for 4 consecutive weeks in that newspaper. And then the comment period closes 20 days after the date of that last publication. And that's what gives us that October 29th public comment deadline in this particular matter.
You know, this comes up, the notice comes up pretty regularly on these things. And I noticed the penetration rate of many of these local newspapers is less and less as days go by. We might want to take a look at other avenues to get notice out to neighbors and participants in the future. I don't know what that is, but maybe it's worthy of discussion because you know, we continue, I mean, that's not new, but we continue to have these questions and queries about how notice was received. But anyway, you know, something to think about. But does the applicant want to talk and say a few words to us so that we might be able to ask some questions of the applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, real quick, this is Russ Means. Wanted to make the board aware, they may not be aware, but we recognize and stuff in that the newspaper and stuff is kind of antiquated, and that's why here about a couple of years ago we actually put it out on our website. So if anybody comes to the division's website and stuff, they can see any permit and stuff that's under consideration. And there's also a form available for them to put comments and stuff in. So that's one of the ways we're trying to address some of the antiquation and stuff, if you will, with newspapers that's required by law. We're not required to do that for the website, but that's one of the ways we try to address it. Thank you.
And I appreciate that, but usually by the time somebody's looking on a website, it's already happened. And I, you know, I think we need to figure out how we can get notice to people some other way. I don't know what that is, but you know, in today's communication world, there's probably a way. I think we need to talk about it because, you know, after that time, you know, somebody goes to your website, it's already happened to them. So anyway, I think we need to think about those things. Anyway, let's go to the applicant if the applicant's willing to visit with us a little bit. Maybe there is no applicant. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
This is Albert Fry Jr. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes. Thank you.
And you've got video as well?
Right.
Great. We have a small 15-minute presentation today on Albert Fry and Sons, and I'd like to share that with you today.
Is that amenable to the board?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, very well. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Singletary and the MLRB board. My name is Albert Fry Jr. My office is located at 35715 Highway 40, Evergreen, Colorado. I'm the president of Albert Fry and Sons. I've been employed by this company for 28 years and have one job during my entire career. I have Joel Bolduck. He is our land and environment manager. He's with us here today. Also have Becky Rigo, who is our in-house counsel and business advisor, and a host of other professionals that will assist and help answer any questions for you today. And lastly, just thank you for your time and consideration. Today, we're going to learn a little bit better perspective on Albert Fry and Sons and that quarry that everybody drives by on I-70. I want you to learn who we are, what we do, and why we're here today. Who we are. On the left is a family photo of my grandfather and family. Fritz, as he was commonly called, immigrated from Switzerland to the United States in the early 40s, pursuing the American dream. He quickly realized that the gravel underneath his family farm was not as profitable as the gravel underneath the beans. The middle photo shows my father on the right and my uncle on the left in front of the newly built AFS sign in 1962 in Adams County. The photo on the right is the current generation of fry miners. Myself on the left, Joe, Lisa, Ben, and Tommy, all whom are actively involved in the business today. As a 60-year-old Colorado family aggregate business, some of our first priorities are community engagement. These are some of our most recent endeavors we've pursued. On the left there, the biannual Touch a Truck event held across from the Quarry entrance, where kids of all ages got up close and personal with Quarry equipment and local nonprofits. Next, AFS significantly sponsors the Clear Creek County School District Bike Tech program, which is one of the first of its kind in the state and gives local kids the opportunity to pursue outdoor education. And last, AFS was also a significant sponsor to the Clear Creek County Collaborative Care Center in Idaho Springs. Thanks to the donors, volunteers, and stakeholders, citizens of Clear Creek now have local access to healthcare. You can also check out our website. Let me make sure you guys can see my little pointer here. We started this website when the application was submitted, and it describes and summarizes the entire project and also has a host of different other topics on there. And one of them is some of the other contributors that we've done. And finally, as a 15-year local Rotarian and the leader of Albert Fry & Sons, I'd like the board to know that everything we think, say, or do follows the Rotary test. First, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Now on to the Walstrum Quarry. Al Sr., my father, was an entrepreneur. In the late 70s, after seeing 5 separate permit applications be denied, he decided to permit a quarry in the historic mining district of Clear Creek County. The photo on the left shows the first day that Dad opened the quarry, and that's actually my father operating the bulldozer. The center photo shows the day that Dad was able to survey newly acquired land, which was eventually amended into the Walstrum Quarry in 2002. And the photo on the right is one of the last achievements of my father before he passed away, our current finished mill facility. Why is the quarry and the Spur amendment important? And you as the board, seeing many of these applications, understand what's occurring in Colorado. But this slide basically says that Colorado is running out of permitted natural resource. When the Colorado, let me see if I can get this off my screen here. When the, sorry about that. When the Colorado Land Reclamation Act was passed in the 70s, consumers were utilizing coarse sand and gravel deposits just east of the mountains, which contained 80% rock and 20% sand. For example, in Golden on the Clear Creek River. 50 years later, after significant growth on the Front Range, producers are now utilizing resource north of Brighton. These resources contain only now 20% coarse aggregate and are 3 times further away from the market. As it stands today, the coarse aggregate demand is being pushed to local crushed stone quarries, most notably the Walstrum Quarry, Spec Ag Quarry, the Morrison Quarry, and the Walstrum Quarry. All of these operations are facing depleted permitted reserves. If no action is taken, Colorado will face significant increases in material costs, and the allocation of construction materials is imminent. To even further illustrate the dire supply of permitted aggregates, producers are now shipping aggregates over extreme long distance to keep up with demand. Material is now coming into the Denver market from southern Wyoming and as far as South Park, just east of Fairplay. The impacts of these distances are significant and include financial, environmental, and more traffic congestion. The quarry produces 3+ million tons of aggregate per year and has been in constant operation for 38 years. At the quarry, we drill and blast, we load and haul, we screen, we crush, and we maintain these facilities and our business with 95 full-time employees. Dozens of these companies depend on our manufacturing, and millions of people benefit from our product. These are some examples of environmental controls and best management practices that we deploy at the quarry every day. We have 2 water trucks for unpaved surfaces for dust suppression. There are over 58 water suppression nozzles and sprays spread throughout the production facility. We deploy a sweeper daily for the paved surfaces inside and outside of the quarry. And we deploy enclosures around the processing equipment at the quarry to help keep the dust and noise in and provide a safe work environment for our employees. These are the 4 core products that we manufacture. Riprap on the left there, crushed stone on the right, fine aggregate on the lower left, and road bases. These are some examples of fry aggregates in daily life that maybe people don't quite realize. On the top left there is the RTD station downtown. We supplied all of the railroad ballast for the entire light rail system in the Front Range. We also supplied all of the coarse aggregate for the Denver International Airport runway. And many people don't know, but that runway is the 2nd largest runway in the world. We're also one of the few suppliers of VTC vehicle tracking control material for job sites all across Colorado. We supply riprap. We supplied all of the riprap for the Welton Reservoir in Arvada, and there are many other water projects that our riprap contains. We supply a wide variety of materials for everyday infrastructure, highways, water projects, paths, landscaping. It's everywhere we work and live. And lastly, we supply specialized drainage material for new turf fields across the state of Colorado. This photo was taken from the Clear Creek High School football field just last year. Recently, we were a proud subcontractor to the newly opened Peaks to Plains Gateway Park, located at the mouth of Clear Creek Canyon in Golden. This park just opened in August with our products everywhere. Most notably, we were one of the few providers of permeable paver aggregates. Under the surface of this parking lot, in the lower right-hand corner here, are thousands of tons of specialized aggregate that allows stormwater to percolate into the ground versus being diverted into local watersheds. Back to the quarry again. The existing quarry, and why we're here today. The existing quarry illustrates the geology and the makeup of what we have there today. The quarry contains 70% of a biotite schist and 30% biotite gneiss. The schist is noted here in this cross section of our high wall with the lighter gray, and the biotite gneiss is noted in the darker gray on the right here. 15 years ago, both schist and gneiss could be used for construction aggregates, concrete, and asphalt. As CDOT specifications and pavement designs have evolved, schist is no longer a suitable aggregate for some end uses. On the other hand, the Spur Amendment contains 95% of high quality gneiss, as noted in these core samples taken from the Spur area. If the Spur Amendment is not approved, the existing quarry will only have approximately 5 years of quality reserves left. On to some of these maps, as Peter's noted. This is the mining map C3 that depicts mining at the 7,500 level. And I'd like to note that the existing quarry is noted here approximately in the red and is approximately 285 acres. The Spur Amendment adds 229 acres of affected area where the mining will occur. And lastly, we've incorporated into our mine plan and permit boundary wildlife habitat and site berms, which amounts to 255 acres that will remain undisturbed and buffer the mining operations. The existing quarry was typically mined from bottom up because in the early years, there was no real estate for the process equipment and staging of trucks and all the infrastructure required to operate this mine. Now that the quarry has matured, working areas have been developed, mining technologies and equipment have improved, the extraction process will operate from the top down and concurrent reclamation will be deployed. This photo illustrates that, and as you drive by, you've also probably noticed some of the concurrent reclamation on the top benches from I-70, but basically there is 3 to 5 years of growth in the upper benches when we started from the top. We mine down, we grade. This is an example of where the microclimates and the seed was seeded and mulched. And then these are the active working benches. The Spur Amendment will be mined in this same fashion. When I undertook this dream, I assembled a team of professionals, engineers, scientists, and consultants to help me with this task. And most importantly, I instructed every team member that we are to leave no stone unturned and be good stewards of our land. The results were a team of 30 professionals submitted a comprehensive application, which took us over 18 months to complete. We believe that this application meets the intent of the MLRB board to foster and encourage the development of an economically sound and stable extraction materials industry, while requiring the industries and businesses involved in this extraction to reclaim the land affected so that it may be put to use by the people of the state. The most wide-ranging part of our application is our geotechnical exhibit. We allocated 30% of our budget to this task. We conducted an extensive drilling program, which was prepared and supervised by Martin Chenoweth, a Colorado professional engineer, a graduate of the School of Mines, and has 37 years of experience in these disciplines. On the left here, this is an example of the core rig that was used to drill 5 core holes on the Spur area. This is strength testing of the rock. And this is an example of the cores that are removed from the resource and analyzed for quality, strength, and geotechnical. Now on to our reclamation plan. The reclamation plan for the current quarry and the Spur Amendment is designed to enhance bighorn sheep habitat. These features include escape terrain, a water guzzler, and specialized seed mix, which include native grasses, forbs, and woody plants. The good news is our reclamation plan is working. We have completed 32 acres of final reclamation and continue to move forward with more. The vegetation is returning, and the sheep herd spends a significant amount of time at the quarry year-round, and we cohabitate with this herd every day. At the recommendations of the Bighorn Sheep Society and the Wild Sheep Foundation, AFS maintains a guzzler on site and serves the health and safety of the herd by allowing them to drink water on the reclaimed slopes and not have to venture down to Clear Creek and cross Highway 6. And as you can see in these photos, they are frequent visitors to the water source. On top of the Bighorn Sheep Society and the Wild Sheep Foundation, we also met with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife on 2 different occasions and asked for input and analysis on our reclamation plan, our mining plan, and they gave us several recommendations that have been incorporated into our application. Another creative attribute of our reclamation plan is also to assist in the wildlife and viewshed conservation. We understand that there are impacts from our operation, and these photos show the homestead parcel. It's a parcel, 18-acre parcel at the top of Floyd Hill, known by the locals as the Floyd Hill Elk Meadow, which was slated for future development, including 88 apartment units and a 45,000 square foot commercial structure. Now, in order to offset the wildlife and visual impacts from the quarry, the homestead parcel will be placed into conservation, which is located 1 mile from the Spur boundary. In closing, I'd like to kind of just wrap it up with a couple different slides here. The Walstrum Quarry is an excellent location for the quarry. It's been in constant operation for 38 years and is ideal. It's located adjacent to I-70 and Highway 6 with significant private buffer completely surrounding the quarry. It's close to the Denver metro area, and all the needed infrastructure to manufacture these products is already in place and is some of the most modern equipment and technology in the industry. This board knows better than anybody that aggregate is critical to our standard of living. Local sources are essential to the health and environment of the economy. And at the end of the day, the Walstrum Quarry is running out of quality reserves. But the Spur Amendment will extend the life of this mine for decades. And this photo is rather ironic. I picked up on this. This is the signing of Governor Polis when he signed the state infrastructure bill, which provides significant state funding for infrastructure. But the juxtapose of this picture is ironic. This is one of the most structurally deficient bridges in the state of Colorado, but all at the same time, it is carrying some of the most critical aspects of our modern economy, the Amazon truck. And as it pertains to local, this bridge is also bridging the future of a tourism-based economy in Clear Creek County. So you combine all this together, the Walstrum Quarry is directly adjacent, a couple hundred feet from this operation. The aggregates for this state and its people must come from somewhere. Let's start by fostering and encouraging the existing local quarries. And in closure, the Spur Amendment continues Clear Creek County's mining legacy. This is a picture of the Colorado Southern Pacific Railroad in Clear Creek Canyon. And just over the ridge is the Walstrum Spur Amendment area. This canyon corridor carried tourists, goods and services, and ores to or from the mines and the mills in the early 18th century or 19th century. An extensive reclamation permit application was submitted. This application complies with the DRMS rules and regulations. And today, AFS requests that the board confirms staff's approval. With that, that's in closure, and I'd like to open it up for any questions. Thank you for your time today.
Any questions? Mr. Fry, thank you, Mr. Fry.
Yeah, this is Lauren Duncan. First off, thank you very much. I think your presentation was very well done, answered a lot of my concerns over habitat, and it sounds like you really dived into that, and I really appreciate the time that you spent working with CPW, so that answered my question there. And then the local Bighorn sheep experts, really. So glad to see that. I guess it's more of just an overall question based on your last picture. Will you need to work with CDOT on any of the I-70 or Floyd Hill improvements? And have you already discussed that with them, or is that part of kind of your operations or any part of this amendment?
Frankly, Ms. Duncan, very good question. We do not own any land in the future or potential right-of-way of the I-70 project. Okay. We do anticipate working very collaboratively with CDOT. That it's a perfect example of having locally sourced aggregates for projects like that. Hopefully we'll be able to have a successful project when they start that.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you. Yeah. And thanks again for the presentation.
Any other questions? Can you take down your share, Mr. Fry?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Tim Mock here.
Go ahead.
Not a question, but I do want to make a statement. Just as the last time Albert Fry and Sons came before the board, just to remind my fellow board members that I am a former county commissioner serving from 2010 through 2018. I'm familiar with Mr. Fry in the mine and the operations, but as before, I don't think any of my past dealings or associations prevent me from objectively considering this matter.
Okay. Anything additional?
Yeah,
you know,
Mr.
maybe along, oh.
Yeah, no, go
Mr.
ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Singletary. No, Wareham. You know, along the same lines for full transparency with Mr. Mock's comments, I do, you know, I'm up at Climax Mine now, but I have worked at the Henderson Mine and Mill. Henderson Mine is in Clear Creek County. I do not feel at all conflicted with anything, you know, completely different kinds of operations. And I think probably our only overlaps with Fry and Sons operations is that, you know, we are both strong community supporters, and, you know, we've supported the Idaho Springs Historical Society and, you know, the Clear Creek healthcare facility, you know, separately, but for the same purposes. So just in full transparency for those on the video, I just wanted to make that statement. And, you know, thank you for your presentation. I also found it incredibly helpful and thorough. So thank you.
Anything else? Before I go to the
Mr.
public
Chair.
comment, I want to ask a question. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, just one question. Thank you, Mr. Fry, for that presentation. That was really enlightening on your future plans. I just had one question on the wildlife habitat. Is it connected to adjacent habitat corridors? Like, is there green space on the periphery that allows for wildlife to pass through that green line?
I'm sorry, I can't quite see who's speaking.
This is Patrick Ortiz.
Mr. Ortiz, thank you. That's a good question. Falling back to the point of why the Walstrum Quarry is an ideal location for aggregate extraction. Our family controls approximately 3,000 acres, starting on the north side of the North Clear Creek, going all the way up and over the ridge and down into the main Clear Creek watershed. So it's basically an isolated peninsula that is surrounded by two major highways, an interstate, a gaming district, and historical mining areas. I do note that Clear Creek County and operates the Floyd Hill open space area, which is at the top of Floyd Hill, but it is separated by the Clear Creek Canyon. So as far as wildlife migrations and connection, there is no per se connection to open space or other areas, specifically divided by two watersheds and two state highways.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I just wanted, this is Joel Bolduc. I just want to add, there is a lot of open space, not regulatory open space, but vacant land, wildlife habitat north of the site as well and west of the site. So there is a bighorn sheep corridor running from Georgetown down to the Golden area. And that's why we left the buffer on the south side. There is additional buffer on the north side.
Okay. Before I get into the public comment, unless there are other questions, I want to ask one. Just Mr. Coreyman, since we settled this, do we need, are we going to need to have a motion to approve since you settled it, or do we need to just confirm that, or is that gonna, what do we need to do process wise?
Yeah, so I think it's a little different because it's not adversarial, but the board still needs to make a decision to approve the amendment or deny it, you know, kind of based on the recommendation of the division. And, you know, just kind of particularly with there being no remaining objection, timely objection, just the only grounds to deny the permit application are the statutory ones. And I don't have those on the tip of my tongue, but you know, it's you can look in the division's recommendation in the board packet, and it'll have those listed. But I think in terms of a motion would be to either approve or deny the application, just kind of straight. It's not over objection anymore. It's just, you know, an up or down from the board.
Okay. with that, Cammie, you want to introduce our guests, our public comment people, and please, keep your comments, right on the subject. We appreciate, and we dearly want to reach out to everybody and give everybody a voice, but let's not have so much repetition. Anyway, Cammie, you want to go ahead and start, introduce whatever order you want to with the public comment people.
Okay, the ones that I know that had registered, I'll go ahead and allow Mr. Priester to go ahead and.
Excuse me, before the public comment begins, I guess AFS would like to have it on the record respectfully that we object to the exception being granted here for the untimely commenters to be granted rights of parties. By commenting now versus later in outside of the public hearing and in the public comment period alone. And respectfully, we would do that in accordance with the rules set forth in 2.73 and 2.8. As such, we ask that the MLRB respect the integrity of the rules and the process that's been in place for 50 years and not allow these folks to derail the process. And we'd ask for a vote before the public comment begins.
You want to vote? You want to vote on a yes or no on the permit? What?
Yeah, that's what we would be asking for, and close out the hearing itself before we go into the next agenda item, which is the public comment period.
Chuck, if they're pertinent to this subject, don't we need to hear from those people?
It's up to the board in terms of when you want to hear it. What's complicated here is that, as I understand, this is the basis for the objection from the applicant is, typically we don't, the rules don't allow for non-parties to, for their comments to be part of the record or the decision-making. And if I understand, the concern is typically public comments are not part of a record on the board's decision and kind of don't feed into that. With untimely commenters, the board has the discretion to allow them to address the board in a public comment period. My recommendation is that because the untimely commenters don't have party status, the board shouldn't consider their comments as part of the justification to approve or deny the amendment. In terms of timing for the board to hear those public comments, like I said, it's up to the board. It's certainly easier to keep the record clear if the comments don't come prior to the close of testimony on this matter. Let me discretion to time it as it sees fit.
And respectfully, I would. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I understand where you're coming from, and I would like to defer to the pleasure of the board. And you're correct that since they don't have party status, it may maybe certainly appropriate to go ahead and vote on it. But I'd like to leave it up to the board because our board has always been pretty open to public, thoughts and ideas, and we don't have anything to hide. But I think we should leave it up to the discretion of the board. Is there discussion on that issue? Does everybody understand what we're talking about here? What would be your preference? You want to go ahead and have a vote, make a decision regarding the permittee, or hear the comments?
Anthony Lobato, I'd be willing to make that motion.
What would your motion be, Anthony?
Recommendation to approve the Albert Fry and Sons Construction Materials Amendment Application AM09, Walstrum Quarry, file number M1983-033. Is that appropriate?
Yes.
I second it.
Second,
Second.
is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none. The applicant's request is approved. Then we will move into public comment now.
Mr. Singletary, may I make one comment before we move into public comment?
Sure.
Douglas Mountain has been a neighbor of the quarry for 38 years. We take their concerns very seriously. And we would like this board to know that we are always willing to work with our neighbors, and their voice has already been heard and will be more predominantly heard in the county land use process, which typically deals with a lot of the non-jurisdictional issues that Douglas Mountain is bringing up. But I just wanted to make that comment before you hear some of these. Thank you.
Sure. In looking at your geographic location, it looks like you got 3 counties you need to stay in touch with. Jefferson, Clear Creek, and Gilpin. So I would suggest that. Okay, Cammie, you want to go ahead and introduce?
Sorry about that. There we go.
You're fine.
Okay, Mr. Priester, please unmute.
Thank you for hearing me, although what's the point after Mr. Fry's objection to letting us comment prior to the vote? There is no point in making the comment other than to say that I agree that there is a problem with your process. You've admitted it's outdated and outmoded. It needs to be addressed. What good does it do to put a public notice about an expansion of this type in a newspaper with a popular circulation of 1,900 people that doesn't even go to those people that are the most affected? It would not have been that difficult for Mr. Fry to come to the community in advance of this and alert us to his plans. As soon as we became aware of his plans, we objected and objected strongly. And you've made comments about our numbers. The numbers are pretty small, only 46, but that seemed to impress you. And I guarantee you, we would have had more people had we been notified. So you silenced us before the hearing, you're silencing us now. I give up at this level. We'll meet again, Mr. Fry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let me see here. Hold on just a minute. There's lots of names here. Mr. Bidwell, please unmute.
Hello, my name is Christopher Bidwell. I'm a kayaker, fisherman, geologist, resident, and also a heavy user of Clear Creek Canyon. This stretch of Clear Creek from Highway 119 to I-70, basically adjacent to the Quarry expansion, is the most beautiful and awe-inspiring section of all of Clear Creek, in my opinion. This is an area that is a gateway into Clear Creek County, where the Peaks to Plains Trail will be. It's one of the few places where the trail will be away from Highway 6. If the expansion is approved, the cliff line canyon wall across the river at the apex of tunnel number 6, probably the most beautiful part of the whole canyon, will have a direct view into the quarry pit, with the quarry floor exposed only 200 feet above the creek. In the presentation before this, when we were looking at the maps, you saw the walls of the quarry going down 800 feet from the top to the bottom. Well, the quarry floor, you'll notice there was no quarry wall for 700 linear feet above the creek. So 200 feet above the creek is going to be a 700-foot stretch where you can see right into the pit because it's at the quarry floor. The 800-foot high interior blast slope will be totally visible from the river. Mining debris and blast rock will certainly wash down into the creek right here. This is environmentally irresponsible and also irresponsible for being the good steward of Clear Creek County that Fry claims to be. Point number 2 is the fact that the quarry boundary is right at the top of all the huge cliffs upstream of tunnel number 6 where there's extensive climbing and river activity. This will create a sharp-edged ridge with a cliff face on one side on this huge cliff going all the way down to Clear Creek, and a steep 0.6 to 1, 60-degree slope into the pit on the other. Imagine a near knife-edge ridge. This is a disaster waiting to happen with the cliff potentially falling down into the river, or worse. This is geologically irresponsible. Point number 3, the current quarry and the proposed expansion are in between the Blackhawk Fault and to the northeast and the Floyd Fault to the southwest. Between these two are two significant faults that are in the heart of the proposed expansion area. These two faults cut north to south directly in the proposed pit area. There are 3 types of metamorphic gneiss in the proposed quarry area. And Albert Frey talked about this, but they start with a softer biotite gneiss to the north. In the center is a slightly harder hornblende gneiss, and the hardest gneiss is at the south. It's a feldspar gneiss. Well, this feldspar gneiss is at the southern end of the expansion area, which is right at the end of the faults where the large cliffs are located just beyond the pit boundary. The cliffs are here. The cliffs here are here since this is where the rock is the hardest. These faults can only weaken the steep quarry walls in this hardest rock. This hardest rock is also the most cost-effective to mine, so they will certainly push the southern boundary to the limit. This is a very dangerous area to have geologic instability with Highway 6, Clear Creek, and the Peaks to Plain Trail right below these large cliff faces. Not to mention quarry workers laboring below a potentially unstable 800-foot high, 60-degree quarry wall inside the pit. Point number 4, the quarry obtained its first permit almost 40 years ago in 1982. 20 years ago, the Fry Quarry was approved for a 55 to 70-year expansion, which they literally blasted through in only 20 years. Now they're asking for another expansion to more than double the size of the existing quarry. They are growing out of control and have proven to have a disregard for the environment based on their work in the current quarry. This is environmentally irresponsible and is environmentally irresponsible and is an accident waiting to happen as they mine as absolutely fast as they can. In my opinion, the quarry should not expand past the current boundary, which was sensibly approved by the DRMS at the last hearing to be constrained to the drainage within the gulch where the quarry started, not expanding outside of the drainage into environmentally sensitive areas. All quarries have a lifespan. They don't go on in perpetuity. The lifespan of this quarry needs to end when they mine to the edges of the current quarry boundary and then perform an environmental cleanup. Albert Frey said 5 years to finish as the life of the mine, but then there needs to be an environmental cleanup, which we haven't seen happen in the current quarry. This expansion would also bring the quarry to less than a mile from residential homes. This area is a recreational mecca for thousands of outdoor enthusiasts in the Denver area, including, but not limited to, rock climbers, kayakers, rafters, fishermen, hikers, and the safeties of families with kids walking the trail, the Peaks to Plain Trail. Between this recreational use, the substantial geologic issues, and the irreparable environmental damage, you should have voted no to the Fry Quarry expansion request. And that's my comment, and I wish you would let me say this before the vote, but thank you for letting me speak now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bidwell.
And John, I do believe we have one more, and that's Miss Agar. Please unmute.
What was the name?
Agar, Lynn Agar, looks like. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Is the volume up on your computer? Ma'am, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. No. Is your volume turned up on your microphone?
She unmuted?
Yeah, she's unmuted.
Well, we can't hear at all.
Yeah, sorry. All right, John, I don't know what else to do here. And I'm not sure if there's anybody else on. Those are the ones that have registered.
Are there any people out there that wish to address the board?
And if so, go ahead and raise your hand.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Lauren. It looks like Mr. Agar is still working and made a phone call there to try to sort it out. So maybe we move slowly here and just give her a few more minutes.
That's okay. Ms. Agar, you can call in. If you have the invite, you can call in on the number that was provided. You are unmuted. Here, let me try it again. Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute once again. Now, I don't think that your microphone isn't working.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate the comments, but I also want to say, Mr. Priester, I read your letter you sent us in detail, and I appreciate where you're coming from, but I want to tell you that, you know, I've been involved in Colorado's, keeping Colorado for a long time. And I know this board and this governor especially, we do everything we possibly can to make Colorado continue to have Colorado the way it has been and is. But, you know, when we have 5.3 million plus people in the state, we have to look at avenues where we can all work together. And certainly, you know, I understand your frustration, and I do think we need to look at our process a little more. But I just want to let you know, and as far as I'm concerned, I've been involved with in all over the state in terms of GOCO and Parks and Wildlife and the Ag Commission, and Colorado means it all to me. I feel so privileged to live here that I know this board, our board was set up to one of the primary reasons Colorado became Colorado, and the first really users to divert water was mining. So that's our charge, and what we want to make sure it's done correctly and with our environment in mind, because it's incumbent on all of us to protect this state, in my opinion. So I appreciate your comments. I do feel comfortable with the Fry people. I happened to tour their facility 3 or 4 years ago, and I know they're responsible individuals, and hopefully you guys can sit down together and make sure things work. We need to do that. We've got to communicate, and we need to keep Colorado. But appreciate all your comments, and you know, I just you have a process still that, you know, with the county and you know, to go from here. But thank you very much for your concerns about Colorado. Anyway, if there's no other comments from any of the board members, any more business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Hearing none, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all, and I guess we'll see if we meet together a month from now, or we do a Zoom again. Everybody have a good holiday.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.